This is it, folks. It is part 5 of our 5-part Summer Strong series. Natural health wins for the 40-plus crowd. So we're going to be talking about summer detox done right, how to drain the toxins without draining your energy. Your body wants to detox, but not with juice cleanses and misery. Learn how to gently support your liver, kidneys, and skin naturally, right after this. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast Health Shots podcast, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your host, Scott Patton. Joining us, as usual, is our other host, Martin Patella, health coach, health engineer. How are you doing today, Martin?
It's a fine day, relatively speaking. on the scale of I'm ecstatically happy or I want to die, I'm closer to the happy than I want to die. So what the heck?
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And of course, we want to say hi to George. Thank you for joining us as usual.
Oh, and Kevin too. All right, awesome.
Well, he's now greeting Kevin. Hopefully, Kevin is listening as well.
All right.
George is doing great.
Our faithful. Okay, guys, I so appreciate you coming by.
So before we get into today's topic, we need to talk about Mercury retrograde, because what will normally happen is about 10 minutes before we go live, I will text on a software called Click Martin. And so, we've been chatting back and forth on this software for weeks, if not months. And today when I go to do it, it goes, oh yeah, no, we logged you out. And it's like, where can I find the password? And I tried a couple, they didn't work. And now I've done a one-time password. It's going to be no problem. I'm going to get in. But it was just like, why now? Why now? And Martin, in your infinite wisdom, shared something. What was it?
Oh, I just pointed out that Mercury retrograde tends to cause collisions in travel and communications. And they always admonish us to, Mercury retrograde is an astrological condition that happens about 3 times a year for about 3 weeks at a time. And it just causes us to have to review all things. Retrograde really means that the planet's moving backwards in the sky, which is just a little funny phenomenon. And it seems to somehow really coincide with problems with travel and problems with communications.
Yeah, and then we had a problem with communication here. Fortunately, Martin showed up and everything. I'm thinking, like, I guess I'm going to have to phone him.
Yeah.
Use one of those archaic phone things.
I'm an old faithful icon.
All right. So we've been talking about, how to get through the summer and everything else. And for people that are on long-term medications or dealing with inflammation, detox can be sluggish, and aggressive detox can backfire, leading to fatigue or flare-ups. And that actually happened to me, because one of the things that you can use to detox is fulvic acid and humic acid. And I have a big bottle of it. And I have a little bottle of it with an eyedropper. So I'll take the eyedropper and I'll, half the eyedropper will go in a glass of water. It'll turn brown. This isn't brown. And I'll drink it. But with this big bottle, I just pour it. And it's like, first of all, it tastes like burnt, which is, whereas when it's a little dropper, it's so diluted, you don't taste anything. I was like, whoa, that's pretty strong. And of course, then I have this bad cold and my nose is going and I'm coughing up and everything else. And of course, Martin says, well, you're detoxing, aggressively detoxing, especially after I told him what happened. Yeah, George goes, oops, that's right. So oftentimes, though, that's what we think. We think, okay, I need to detox. I need to really give it. And that's not always necessarily the case. So let's talk a little bit about gentle detoxing, Martin.
Gentle detoxing. Well, look it. You want to make your pooper running right, right? Like it's called open the channels that are detoxifying you. So how do you detoxify? One, your breathing. You want to bring stuff out and not store it, right? So that's one. Two, through your skin, you sweat. So make that sweat thing work. Three, make sure you pee lots, Scott. And then the third thing
I've been
is,
doing that.
and then the third thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're pooping well every day.
And yeah, and so that's the major way of getting things out, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, let's not forget the lymphatic system, right? Which is one, movement, and two, perhaps the massage, right? Like,
Right.
interestingly, your lymph doesn't have its own pump. It only moves when you move or when you walk, which means rising and falling against gravity. And it's a funny thing, like the lymphatic system has these lymph nodes, and most of them are on the inside of joints. So, like, I'll demonstrate it here on my elbow. This is the inside of the elbow. There is a lymphatic joint under your arm. This is the underside, right? They are the most famous ones. And then, of course, they're under your jaw down here, and they're up here by the clavicles. Like, the easiest way to move them is actually to massage them right here. Watch me do the massage. And the way you want to massage them is a pump, like push, release, and it's like that. They don't like to be pounded terribly hard. Anyway, we can get into details of that, but it's the movement of the lymph that's super important, because stagnating lymph leads to swampy, putrefying, stinky, rotting smells in your feet and crotch, and who needs that?
Right. One tool that you use for that, Martin, is a rebounder.
Yeah, bouncing. And rebounder, of course, is make it more comfortable to hit the bottom.
Right. Takes away that pounding that happens when you're running.
Yeah, that, exactly. But also, because you're bouncing and bottoming out, it actually doubles the strength or acceleration with which this happens.
Oh, right. Okay. So you get more efficient movement.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you need to move, and you need to sweat. You need to poop, and you need to pee. You need to blow your nose and hack.
Yeah, all that.
And if you don't put in really bad stuff, and your air is not super polluted and your water is not terrible, and then you have to do less detoxing.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the problem is in the summertime, we like to head out into the bush, drink a lot of beer. In British Columbia, smoke a lot of pot. I wouldn't know anything about that.
Really now? I thought in British Columbia what we're supposed to be doing is going out into the bush looking for the magic mushrooms and using that to tonify our abilities.
Well, whether it's the mushrooms or smoking bark, it's generally speaking a little bit of good with a lot of bad.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the natural things that people can do. We're going to talk about two products, Lazarus and New Liver, a little bit later, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how milk thistle or burdock root or dandelion could help, because most of the time we think of those as weeds.
Yeah, of course. We think of them as weeds. They're the most precious, important plants, right? thistle, and dandelion. Now, in the dandelion, it's the root. It's the root of the dandelion that's super important. But actually, the leaves of the young shoots of the dandelion are awesome in a salad. You know what's interesting is all the bitter foods, plants, especially the one that have the latex in them, such as the thistle and dandelion. They help to form bile, all the bitter things, right? And
So what do you use bile for in our body?
well, the bile is formed in your liver, and it's essentially the saponification. What the heck is that word in English? It's the binder that helps to deal with fats.
So does it bind to fat and pull out the bad fat?
No, it's not about binding the fat. It's allowing the fat to be digested, to be broken down, to be converted,
Okay.
right? So your bile is produced by your liver and it's injected into the gallbladder. And so when a meal that contains fat is coming out of the stomach, it gets squirted that stuff in. The stuff being bile.
Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, the bile also is a means of getting rid of a lot of stuff. Like when the liver does detoxification in the body, it's dumping toxins through the liver into the gut, through the bile into the gut.
And then out it goes.
Yeah.
Cool. And the liver normally works mostly between 10 at night and 2 in the morning. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's more 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. is when the liver's doing the backwashing, the maintenance, right? So when it goes offline to do its self-care.
Oh, okay.
So that's usually when your liver stops making glycogen. And so if you didn't eat the right stuff, your blood glucose drops and your adrenals wake you up in the middle of the night saying, Scott, we're out of energy. Feed us.
Now, fortunately, I haven't had that problem.
It's very easy for you to eat after dinner before bed, right?
Yeah, it's a
It's a good
bad
life.
habit. It's part of
Well,
how I'm
you
made.
know, okay, yeah, it's a bad habit. People who don't eat after dinner are healthier. Mm,
Yeah, because you've got that longer period of fasting, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to stretch the period of fasting. You want to be compressing your body's activity. You know, like your body's busy with the digestion, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to shorten that time and allow it idle
Well,
time and can
if
do
the
everything.
body's digesting and all the energy is going into digesting your food, it's not going into rebuilding your muscles or rebuilding your cartilage or anything else that needs repair,
Yeah,
or not as much energy, right?
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about skin-based detox. You had talked about sweating, but let's talk a little bit about Epsom salt baths or castor oil packs, or even how people can, sweat more to cleanse their body.
Yeah. Well, what does your grandma's wisdom say about all that?
Well, I find personally, I love going into a sauna. I go into a sauna, I get really, really hot. The water just flows out of my pores, and it feels really good. Surprisingly, a wet sauna or a steam bath doesn't do nearly the same. It actually bothers my lungs, and I'm coughing a lot more.
Yeah, how about that?
So I like that dry heat.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, and in the summer we have to remember that if we sweat a lot, and if we do sauna on top of it, we will be losing a whole lot of salt.
Right.
Yeah, I keep remembering how people undersalt themselves, and then they get weak and kind of tired and unclear in their head, and are wondering why that is.
Yeah. Well, we've been taught. Do you get high blood pressure? Don't take any salt.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that high blood pressure business? So, um, high level of cortisol is associated with retention of sodium. And sodium, of course, we have this sodium potassium pump
Right.
where potassium's on the inside of the cell, sodium's on the outside of the cell. And in order to balance the transfers of either nutrients in or metabolites out, we need to have this polarity between sodium and potassium adjusted, right? And so the more protein you eat, the more salt you will need to get rid of all the metabolites, for example.
This is why people put salt and pepper on eggs.
Or meat. Yeah.
Yeah, or meat.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. So I'm just trying to figure out the wise way of speaking about it. And I just keep running out of ideas in the sense that um, that so the sodium retention is caused by stress. And so is your high blood pressure rising because you eat too much salt, or is it rising because your stressy reaction to your life is causing it to be retained? And I would bet my tutu on the latter. I
Right.
would I would insist that it's your nervousness that's causing your blood pressure to rise, and not your oversalting your food.
I would agree. And so we can't really talk about salt without making a distinction between refined salt with iodine added to it and Himalayan salt, as an example. In other words, there are qualities of salt. And if you get the refined salt, you're not getting much benefit. If you get the raw salt, I can put it that way,
Yeah.
then it's much, much better. So just going to the restaurant and taking the shaker off the table and pouring it onto your French fries and eggs is not really going to be like the best thing to do. Quality, it's like they used to say this about computers, right? Garbage
Yeah.
in, garbage out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the same with
Yeah.
our bodies. Garbage in, garbage out. So you got to make
Yeah.
sure that you're putting good stuff in your body.
Yeah, the miserable stuff about all of that is how did they process it? Like I remember, for example, the Himalayan salt that I've had. Well, we still have the chunks. We have run out of the fine ground salt. But the grinding of the salt was a really interesting process. The fellow that was doing it, he had two very large granite wheels. Like the wheel was about 4 feet, 4 feet diameter, and it was on a shaft that was a square stick of oak.
Oh,
He said, "Yeah, you can't have any steel in that. The damn thing will rust like you wouldn't believe."
right.
So anyway, there were two granite wheels and a oak shaft, and it was grinding. One was stationary, the other one was moving, and it was grinding the salt.
Wow.
And he said, "Yep, the commercially ground salt will have all kinds of leftovers in it. It will have iron, it will have aluminum in it, it will have anti-caking, and it will have pouring agents." Right, like the fine salt that we've had. By the time you get the bag, it's actually all stiff, and you actually have to break it
Right.
apart. Right?
I remember getting salt like that.
Yeah. Well, you need to essentially put it into another bag and step on it. Right? Like just
Right.
it will come apart, but it requires some pressure.
Right. Okay. So getting back to the skin, George has a comment he put in. He likes to apply iodine DMSO gel, and I don't know what DMSO stands for.
Dimethyl sulfoxide, if you really want to know.
Okay.
It's a really cool thing. DMSO is something we don't have in our store. DMSO is one of those items that the FDA has been hounding people for. You know, you put DMSO on your website, it's almost like you're painting a target right over here.
No.
There are a few. DMSO is one of them. The CDS or chlorine dioxide solution,
Oh,
also
yeah.
known as MMS, right? There are a few of those things. Oh yeah, silver is another that the FDA has never really liked. They would always chase us alternative health promoters, telling us, "No, you can't talk about that." You're,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Mhm.
DMSO is really, really good at driving whatever you have with it into the body, and it's an awesome supplement for sulfur. So I have been using MSM, which is methyl sulfonyl methane, and the difference between the two is that there's an extra oxygen in MSM, and it goes from liquid to solid to powdered. So I'm able to use MSM, which is a powder, and I dissolve it in water. It's chemically really similar, just one extra oxygen.
Okay. Cool. All right. So, and what about iodine? Putting iodine on your skin, is that a good idea?
Yeah. Yeah, iodine is the element responsible for the resilience of your barriers. Like, for example, in German, it's called the shield gland.
Oh.
Um,
So what, George? What do? Do you just get like a bottle and you just after you shower, you just pour it all on and rub yourself, and now you're like bright red? Or how does that work?
and you know, DMSO really has a smell to it. Oh,
Well, we know that if you want to be healthy, you're probably not going to smell. Uh,
all I want to say is, if you want to
perfume
get romantic with your partner, delay the application of DMSO.
until afterwards. To shins and knees. Okay. Well, and of course, I have some iodine, George. And the reason I was asking was like, where do you put it? And I would think I'll put some on my knees because I do have a slight inflammation in my knees, which is way better than it was a couple of years ago. So I'm happy that it's rejuvenated to the point where I can walk with
Yeah.
minimal problem.
You know, this week I was listening to a lecture by Dr. Brian Ardis, and a chiropractor. Anyway, he was talking about nicotine, and he was saying that the recommendation is that you take the nicotine patches and cut them into strips that are about 1 milligram of nicotine, because a typical patch will have either 7, 14, or 28 or something like that milligram of nicotine. So you snip it up, and he said, take the nicotine patch and apply it directly to the joint, like to your knee or to your ankle or to your hip, wherever you want to put it. And he said, just watch, just do it and watch. So Scott, I need you to go find some nicotine patches out wherever you are.
And I'm going to try it and see what happens.
Now,
and I'm going to put it in my calendar, which is what I did with my knees, so I could see how long it took them to get better.
Yeah, right on. You know, the other thing that I remember, of course, is that vitamin B3, which comes under the name of niacin, is actually the same thing as nicotinic acid.
It's connected.
And therefore, vitamin B3 would be also very useful for the same purpose.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to check.
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of time, Martin, and I wanted to talk about a couple products. And the first one is Lazarus. So let's talk about one of my favorites.
Yeah. The second most expensive product we make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You focus on that. I focus on it is the most potent product that we
Yeah.
make. And if you want really vibrant health, this is something you should take 2 or 3 times. Like a bottle of it, you should consume it 2 or 3 times a year, which is what I do.
Yeah. All right. So it's at $2 a teaspoon. So you definitely want to be making sure you use a lot of it because it
Oops.
makes my business run better. And the main point of this thing is that it's loaded with two things. One is royal jelly, which is stuff that bees make,
Hmm.
and that's what they feed their queen. And the other thing that it's rich in is allantoin, which is yet another one of those things that the FDA does not want you to know about.
Right.
Because if you look at the ingredients, Scott, you can read about allantoin, and
There it is.
there it is. There it is mentioned. You can look it up and go looking at out there what it's used for and what it does. The other thing that's heavy is hyaluronic acid, right?
Yeah.
That's now, so the allantoin is anti-inflammatory, but also really good at helping you build new muscle. So when we call it Lazarus because it reminded us of rising from the dead, no joke.
Right.
We had people who are, like bedridden for some time, and then they need to come back and put meat back on their bones. Lazarus is the thing you would use.
Yeah, it's really, it's amazing. And I know so many people who have had kidney problems. And
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons that I get it is like, I don't want to have problems with my kidneys. One of my parents' cousins went 3 times a week, 30 miles from the countryside into the city for dialysis for like 10 years.
Whew.
And finally, he just said, I'm just not going anymore. Like, this is ridiculous. I mean, he's like 88, 92 or something. And he's just like, and he just faded away and he died. But
yeah, it usually takes you skip 1 or 2 sessions and it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was, So anyway, I just think it's a really, really important superfood to have. And then, and then you rotate, this is all about education. We can show you the book, but you got to read it. Right.
Yeah.
And the Exla superfoods are all amazing. And Martin is here to give you, his expert advice, but, read through them. There's scientific references, related articles, instructions, descriptions, everything you need to make a strong, a good decision.
Yeah, I had one 60-year-old executive type call me and said, the combination of Lazarus with barley gold is probably the most wonderful thing that I've ever had. It's the it's the building blocks with energy plus all the repair material and the stimulation of the right things. And you can take an old guy and put muscle back on him.
Right. I'll have to try that barley gold again. I haven't tried it for a while.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at one last one, and that is new liver, because we were talking about the liver before.
All of you barbecue and beer abusers, at the end of the summer, you will have done more than your fair share of fried foods and too much carbohydrate and too much beer or alcohol or whatever it is that you will have done. And you need to get your liver back online. So you want to do at least 1 bottle of this thing to help reset and repair and rebuild.
Yeah. And get a big bottle.
Yeah, get the big bottle. This is the small bottle, but get the big one.
Yeah, and energy, quality of life, vitality of your digestive system, nutrients, memory, heart, immunity.
The thing is this, right? The liver is responsible for making energy. So anything that requires energy is affected, which is everything.
Yeah.
Right. Coenzyme Q10, that's super important, protects your hard-working muscles, especially the heart muscle.
Yeah.
And then the silymarin, that's what comes out of the milk thistle.
Okay. See, it all ties together.
Yeah. And lecithin
Here's
is the
burdock.
lecithin is the emulsifier. Turmeric is the anti-pain. Burdock is the detoxifier. And NAC, that's an acetylcysteine, that's the precursor to glutathione, which is what reduces all the antioxidants, improving your methylation. And MSM, we just talked about that.
Yeah.
It's the unsmelly version of the sulfur that your body needs. Right. Sulfur is in a lot of proteins, right? So you need that to rebuild tissues.
Yeah, and it tastes a lot better in new liver than it does if you take it all by itself.
Oh yes. Oh dear.
Well, George says it's all right there, folks. Yep.
Yeah, it is. It only took 30 years of study and 20 years of fine tuning, but here we are.
That's right. We have arrived. Well, actually, we're about to leave because we've come to the end of our time together. And I just wanted to say, if you feel like you've got value out of this, please, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss us. But also head over to life-enthusiast.com/appointment, and you can get a free 15-minute consultation with Martin, go over all your aches and pains, whatever it is that's going on with you. He'll be able to give you some amazing advice. And
George, I'll tell you that George uses sulfur and iodine on his shins and knees, and he still, I bet you, even in his advanced age, is still lifting weights and walking comfortably.
Yeah, another great episode. Thank you, George.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Bye for now.
Hey. Hey.